Welcome back to another episode, Whisper Nation of the Fantasy Whispers. We got a great episode today, Friday, June 18th. We're going to be talking about 5 running backs that you are not going to want to leave your draft without, at least one of them. I would prefer, you get all of them. I'm going to try to get as many as possible. I know Big Travy is as well, and hopefully we can convince you to grab as many of these guys. So stick around right here on the Fantasy Whispers.
Right here.
What's going on, Whisper Nation? As Johnny said, we're talking those top 5 must-draft running backs. If you're seeing my face or hearing my voice, please go ahead and give us a like or a subscribe on whatever platform you're all on, and share this bad boy on whatever stream you are watching, as it helps with the algorithms, helps us grow the channel so we can continue to provide you fantasy football content Monday through Friday during the off season and 7 days a week during the regular season. If you're new to the Fantasy Whispers, please go over to the website, thefantasywhispers.com, learn how you can follow us across all platforms and subscribe on all platforms, because we do this for you. We do it for the community, and we appreciate what you guys do for us. So head on over to thefantasywhispers.com and follow us today. Johnny, we're talking the 5 must-draft running backs. This is an exciting episode. Obviously, every year we try to do this. We get you 5 guys that you want to take away from your draft. 5 guys, not like the burgers.
No,
those are good.
No, those are great.
5 guys, as in the fantasy football running backs that you want to look. Running back is the most important position, Johnny. We want to get these people in Whisper Nation. 5 guys they can go away with their draft, feel confident that they could potentially have a league winner.
I'm not gonna lie to you or Whisper Nation, Travis. I can't stop thinking about 5 guys since you mentioned it, because it's a Friday and I'm excited. And I also have to say, dude, like the intro went a little long because I have to admit I was stalling a little bit because I couldn't find the drop for the intro. So thanks, Whisper Nation, for hanging on that one. But it is Friday. I am excited for this show. It's going to be a great one, Travis. And I appreciate you and Whisper Nation for jumping on here.
Yeah, of course. And before we get into that, we want to keep it running back related with our question of the day. And Johnny, I want to ask you, and I'll let you take it first. Which first-round running back is the most underrated in the first round currently? So let's just get the ADP up here as we're talking about this. Obviously, Christian McCaffrey first off the board, then Dalvin Cook, Alvin Kamara, Derrick Henry, Saquon Barkley, Jonathan Taylor, Ezekiel Elliott, Austin Ekeler, Nick Chubb, and Aaron Jones round out the top 12 right now, according to 4for4 ADP. So, Johnny, which of those guys is your most underrated guy right now?
I understand it's a little crazy to be like, hey, how are we saying any of these running backs are underrated in this first round? But I'll tell you, there are 2 underrated running backs in this first round that people are going to be passing up on, in those first couple of picks, that will be very disappointed that they did not grab my guy, Nick Chubb. Nick Chubb should be a top running back in this league this year. Travis, I'm just gonna say it right now live. Nick Chubb is going to finish as the number 1 overall running back this year, and surprise a lot of people. Now, I know that might be a little bit of a shock, but let me just warm you up like I warm up my vocals on why Nick Chubb is just going to be so dominant this year. Look at this schedule to open up, Travis. Chiefs, Texans, Bears, Vikings, Chargers. You love all of those run defenses. They can't stop a nosebleed. All right. That's just a start. That schedule continues. He's got one of the top 5 easiest schedules for running backs. He's never had under 5 yards per carry, so we know he's elite. I understand he missed some time last year, but it was the first time in his career, Travis, that he had ever missed any time. And listen, you're telling me the bottom floor for Nick Chubb is 190 carries and over 1,000 rushing yards with 8 touchdowns minimum? Like, sign me up for that. But the ceiling, I'm telling you, is this guy gets, because he is on pace, if you extrapolate the whole thing, to be over 300 carries. And we've seen him, when he gets 300 carries, get 1,500 yards. And if he gets that, massive touchdown upside, like we think we can because of his schedule, you're talking about 16 touchdowns or something like that, potentially. And there's no doubt he'll be the number 1 overall running back in my eyes.
Yeah, great offensive line. Second year in a system that won that coach, head coach of the year by his peers. You've got Baker Mayfield in a second year in this offense. You've got Nick Chubb, hopefully fully healthy, coming back. This smells and looks and tastes like Dalvin Cook to me, and that's a really good thing because Dalvin Cook's being drafted at number 2. So I could see how you could see he's over or underrated here. I want to say a guy who's underrated as well. And really, this is a caveat to say that I think Alvin Kamara right now is a little overrated in the first round. If we start to look at some of the things that we're questioning about Kamara, but let's take Pat Thorman tweeted out. He said for their careers, Zeke Elliott has averages 4.2 more PPR points per game when playing with Dak Prescott than Alvin Kamara does with Drew Brees is out. Last year, the difference was 8.9 more points per game. Which offense likely scores more points and runs more plays in 2021? That's the bottom line for me. We know that Zeke is so much better when Dak is in the offense. Of all these guys that were taken in the top 5, you look at CMC, you look at Alvin Kamara. There's quarterback questions there with both of these guys. We just don't really know. With the Cowboys, we know the offensive line is getting back healthy. We know this team is going to be an offensive juggernaut. Why are we not drafting Zeke with a little bit more confidence? He is definitely underrated in my mind. I think he should be going within the top 5. And I think in my mind, he's a better bet than guys like Saquon Barkley, guys like Alvin Kamara with a lot more questions within their offense. So I think Zeke's being underrated in the first round, but once again, it's splitting hairs. That first round is so good. There's so many guys in there. We understand why, but you have to be able to discern those little splitting hairs when you're deciding on your first round pick, because you need to hit that home run.
And that's the bottom line.
That's exactly right.
Because the fantasy
Steers said so.
Exactly.
We appreciate Austin jumping in here. We appreciate all of you watching. We got 7 watching now. Please help us get 7 likes. Hit those like button on whatever platform you are watching. We appreciate you and love you for doing so. We are going to talk the 2021 must draft running backs. But first, I got to talk about this draft kit that we've got rocking, Johnny. We've been working hard on it over the last couple of weeks. We'll continue to do so and crank it out by July. It's that time of year. It's here. The draft kit's launching soon, and it's about to be better than ever. The draft kit is fully loaded with premium player projections and rankings, consistency charts, and over 3 years worth of data, cheat sheets, strength of schedule charts, and so much more. The TFW Draft Kit will be on sale July 1st, but you can pre-order right now. If you get on over to thefantasywhispers.com and get your kit, you'll get it for $10 if you order it by the end of this month. Otherwise, it goes to $15, which is still an industry low. But go over to thefantasywhispers.com and get your draft kit today. I'm going to drop that link right here in the chat. And then, Johnny, we're going to get to talking here, like we said, about the top 5 must-draft running backs. And I'm excited for this episode. It's going to be a good one. Jacob Blake coming in here.
You're not going to want to go nowhere.
Yeah, you're going nowhere. Walker Bass, welcome back, brother. Hey,
what up?
Everybody excited to get into this episode. So, Johnny, I'll give it to you first. Your number 1 running back you wanted to talk about first is David Montgomery. Look, we know that Matt Nagy likes to get cute. We know Tariq Cohen's come back, and Damian Harris has signed on. A lot of podcasts out there are calling David Montgomery overdrafted, but you are coming in and saying you've got to walk away with David Montgomery from your fantasy football drafts. Is that right, Johnny?
Absolutely. Just like Kelly Clarkson says, you got to just walk away and grab David Montgomery. No matter what, if your league mates, do the, oh man, as you grab them or not, but guaranteed by the end of the year, they'll wish they had. All right. And here is why I am so excited about David Montgomery and why people are just not understanding that all of his production did not just come as a result of Tariq Cohen going down. Did that benefit him? Yeah, of course it did. There was only Cordero Patterson as the other running back in this backfield. So he did pick up a little bit more work down the stretch. Now, did he pick up a massive amount of work? No, he didn't. He only saw 5 more carries than he did his rookie year. And he saw 30 more receptions than he did his rookie year. Now, some might say, okay, you take those out and, is he as good of a running back? Potentially he's not, right? I get it. But here's the reality. Their quarterback position just got a little bit better. I'll take Andy Dalton over Nick Foles and the other, trash cans they were throwing out there. And then ultimately, I do think that they end up going to Fields, which will help David Montgomery. We've seen what rushing and mobile quarterbacks do for the running back position. We do know that that Matt Nagy, his coaching career is on the line right now, or at least with the Bears, and so he's going to do everything he can in order to win this job out there. He's got to try as hard as he can, right? Here's what I like. Opening schedule, Travis: Rams, Bengals, Browns, Lions, Raiders, and Packers. That's pretty nice when you're talking about as far as run defenses. And here's the other thing about David Montgomery that people keep from missing. He got better on a yards per carry touch. Now, I'm not a big yards per carry guy, but it does signify what the Bears were trying to do. I talked about it last offseason, Travis, how they were trying to get that line a little bit better. The tight ends couldn't block correctly, and they got Cole Kmet more involved in this offense. And David Montgomery went from 3.7 yards per carry to 4.3. This guy is going to be on the field a lot. He'll get the goal line work. He's got tremendous upside. I'm grabbing it every time in the late third and early fourth round.
Yeah, two things. You want to see Matt Nagy just give this offense to David Montgomery. They did it down the stretch. Lack of weapons around him could be a key. He had a bunch of soft opponents. That could be another key. But if they give him the ball like they should, this is going to be a lights out pick. And so you appreciate that. The other thing, though, is I just want to know if you're going to be able to pass on some of those great wide receivers that are in his range in order to get Dave Montgomery. So it just really depends on what you want to do there. So I just really like what Dave Montgomery brings to the table. He's always been good at breaking tackles. We saw that in college, right? And then last year he ranked 7th and 13th over the last 2 years. I'm sorry, last year 7th and 13th the year before in evaded tackles. So you love what he does there, and that for me is another reason to just be scooping up Dave Montgomery. We love that there. All right, my running back I wanted to bring up here quickly, and this is not even this shouldn't be a spicy take, but CEH is my guy. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, second year in this offense. He's going to be a post-hype ADP, bargain. You're going to buy the dip, so to speak, as Johnny likes to say on CEH, because right now he's going in the third round, Johnny. He's going at 305 as RB16 behind guys like DeAndre Swift, Najee Harris, Joe Mixon. And to me, I think he's a surefire bet to have much higher ceiling than those backs. We have a much improved offensive line, but that's the only thing that's really changed from this offense. It's going to be a great offense that you're going to want pieces of. And then they got better with the line. Last year, 81 carries, 803 rushing yards, 36 passes on 54 targets for about 300 yards. That was only in 13 games, but 0 fumbles, Johnny, in his rookie season. So for me, the draft capital, the fact that his offense remains the same, CH is a surefire guy in the second round. I'm going RB robust. I'm taking my RB in the first. I'm coming around. And then since he is in that third, if you're in the 1-3 turn, CH is a target of mine because you could potentially get him in the third still. And by getting, maybe you can't pass on a Travis Kelce at the end of the second there, or you can't pass on one of these wide receivers. CEH is a guy that's setting you up to be easily drafted because he's going to be slept on based on how bad he was last year. Those are air quotes there. And the way people were burned on him, taking him in the first round.
And that's the reception or the perception and the reality of everything is that when people get burned on fantasy players or they take them higher than they should have. And if you listen to the Fantasy Whisperers, we mentioned that, his floor could have been a little bit lower than what people were taking him at last year. But I think his ADP is corrected. It's very, very nice. Like you said, the upside is definitely there. He was a very solid RB2 for you, and that's where you're starting to get him. So I think it's great. I think that there is a lot of upside. I do want to note, and I think it is kind of interesting, we're not talking about a little bit more, but the Chiefs did sign Jerick McKinnon, and we do know that when this guy was given touches, he was elusive and he could also perform as well. So that is something to watch in camp, see how much they want to use him. But in general,
Jerick McKinnon is a fine handcuff, so to speak, or back that we could pick up late in drafts to win you a league, because should something happen to CEH, Jerick McKinnon in that offense, we saw a dusted LaShawn McCoy do some wonder in that offense. So that's something to keep in mind. But for sure, I think that we've seen the days of Jerick McKinnon. They tried to make him the guy, but Jet's not the guy. Jay, the fantasy football plug, is in here saying, let's go, boys. Plugged in with Jay. Make sure you follow him on every platform you can. He is
We're going to have him on the show
next week. Yeah, I'm excited for that. Let's get on to the next running back here, Johnny. Number 3 of the running backs you must leave your draft with. Johnny's cover boy here, Damian Harris. So the big thing with Damian Harris is he's starting to creep up ADP because now Sony Michel looks like he might be cut by the Patriots. You look at what the Patriots are doing to the offensive line. They beefed up the line in free agency. They got the tight ends to run that run-heavy scheme. You've got Cam Newton or a rookie quarterback. But the bottom line, Johnny, that we have to kind of beat back is Bellatrix, all of these shenanigans that he always likes to pull with his running backs, using 17 running backs. And so what would you say here is the justification for Damian Harris as a must draft RB?
What I will say is we have, there's always Bellatrix, right? That's always going to happen to a certain extent, but we have seen when he does like a guy and that guy is efficient, he will continue to play that guy because he goes with, what is the smartest football play. He wants his best players out there. And if Damian Harris continues to do what we saw him do last year in that short span, Travis, I think he's going to continue to stay out there. Look, from weeks 7 to 14, he got double-digit carries in 8 consecutive games. He was the RB17 during that span, Travis. And I understand as of right now, yes, Cam Newton in theory is the starter, but no one at all in football believes that Cam Newton will continue to hold down that job for a very long time. We think maybe he might last 4 games into the season. And so you're saying, okay, 4 games of limited, touchdown upside, right? Because that's the big thing. Oh, Cam takes away the touchdown and the red zone carries. Well, he's only going to be probably playing for like 4 games. So you could go and get him right now. If Damian Harris, I'm telling you, if the rookie Mac Jones is in there, Mac Jones, if he's running that offense, he's not going to be taking a lot of quarterback sneaks. I can guarantee you that. Who are they going to give the ball to? Damian Harris, because he's a big running back. He can get into the end zone. And I just think that people are undervaluing him because, yes, he is in a somewhat crowded backfield right now because there's some question marks. But like I said, or like you said, Travis, I do believe, based on reports, Sony is probably going to be cut. It wouldn't be a shocker either because of the injury history. And Damian has shown that he can, when given the workload, can produce. And I think that that's the type of gamble you want to take. I do understand, like, sometimes his ADP is going to go up a little bit more as we get closer, sure. But like, you're telling me if I'm taking a choice between like Myles Gaskin or Damian Harris and I don't know who else is going right around there. I'm going to take Damian Harris because he has the most upside. We know the New England Patriots are going to run the ball and they have one of the best offensive lines.
Yeah, I have been more of a Ramondre Stevenson kind of.
Oh, I love that cat.
And
I love that cat.
And that's only because I think that he could definitely be that LeGarrette Blount type. But Damian Harris did well with the carries he got last year. And so when he did get carries and he was fed, which he should be first in line to do, barring any injury, I like that situation. We know how Bill Belichick treats his rookies. Jay coming in here saying, so glad I'm the only one making that joke. The haha, Mac Jones. Who? Mac Jones. Yes, of course. If you Zoomers won't remember, Mike Jones was a hot commodity in the rap game for about 2 seconds.
Dude, back then they didn't want me. Now we're hot. They're all
on me.
Yeah,
that's
dude.
Exactly right. All right, let's get into these other backs. Except for first, Whisper Nation, we want to let you know, thank you so much. We're nothing without your support. We're so proud of this community we've built together. And if you feel it upon your heart to continue to help us grow this family and chase this dream, consider joining us over on patreon.com. You can show the support at the $5 and $10 levels. Our patron benefits include access to our exclusive Discord channels, entries to sports card giveaways, increased odds for landing a spot in our 2021 Listener League, and bonus fantasy content that is only available to our patrons. Head on over to patreon.com/the Fantasy Whispers today and join the nation. Johnny, look, I'll tell you right now, this is going to be an extra tidbit. for TFW. I
I'm
wanted to
looking
put
for
Austin Ekeler here. I wanted to put Austin. It wasn't going to be another. Well, who is that? Bubba Sparks, right there. You were referencing.
No, dude, that's Mike Jones, dude.
Well, that's Bubba Sparks in that song too. Miss New
Oh
Booty.
yeah, yeah. Okay.
Anyways, we'll have to get Jay on here and do a little bit of hip hop history. But
Yeah.
for sure, I wanted to go with a guy in the first round. But we had talked about the first round already. We talked about Zeke. We talked about Chubb. So if you're drafting those two guys, you can't really draft Austin Ekeler right now because Austin Eckler's going at the back. You could have the turn maybe and get them both. But Austin Ekeler was a guy I wanted to talk about here as a must draft. People are sleeping on how good Austin Ekeler is. And he's done all that with a bad offensive line and not as good a quarterback play. His lowest finish with Justin Herbert last year was an RB 26. So that is what we're looking at with Austin Ekeler. So make sure you grab Austin Ekeler if you can, if you're in the position to. But he wasn't my must draft. Did you want to add something about the Austin Ekeler?
Yeah, it's funny that you say that because I was thinking that initially, but I was like, oh, I can't go with the first rounder. So then that's why I came up with that question of the day. But then, yeah,
there's so many good running backs in the first
right.
2 rounds that we're seeing, or even in the 3 rounds.
And
go for
it. The one thing I do want to add, Travis, is that's a big part of why I think Herbert will have the regression he'll have this year is because I think Austin Ekeler will have that bigger workload. He'll take more of those touchdowns away from Herbert. So I do think that's funny. Like-minded people.
Yes, sir. All right, but I had to go deeper in the ADP, and I wanted to give you guys a value. And look, when we get past the 8th, well, really when we get past the 3rd round, you don't see running backs that hit very often, okay? And so this is a kind of a dart throw and a lottery ticket. But in the 10th round, we've got a guy at 10:02, RB 39 coming off the board in Zack Moss. Now, Johnny's cringing over there because I love me some Zack Moss. I talked about him out of college coming in as a rookie last year. He did not flash anything successful at all. Had a very forgettable rookie season. I know that Josh Allen is a touchdown vulture, but let me tell you something. I don't think that they want Josh Allen to continue to be the Cam Newton type. And I don't mean he won't get his. He will definitely get his, but they need, if they saw anything out of the running game that was non-existent in the Super Bowl, if they saw anything out of the running game that was non-existent in their playoff run, they know they need to establish the run, especially with a young quarterback, to keep him healthy and to keep the defense honest. So I think that there will be an effort behind a really good offensive line in Buffalo that's been revamped, behind a really great quarterback and a good offense that was high flying, to get him the ball more. And Zack Moss is the guy that is practically free in the 10th round right now as a dart throw RB. And one little tidbit. Yes, I know a lot of his advanced metrics weren't good, but one that was yards created per attempt in 2020. So Johnny talked about Nick Chubb. We've talked about Derrick Henry. Both of those guys top of the list. Number 7 on that list, though, is Zack Moss with 1.71. So he did show us something about creating offense on his own. And if he were to get more opportunities, he, unlike Devin Singletary, projects to be an all-around back in this offense. Could be the full-time 3-down back in this offense. He was a better receiver in college than Devin Singletary was. He's a better goal line prototypical back than Devin Singletary. So in my mind, he would be the guy you could invest in as the overall winner of the backfield. Will that equate to anything? We didn't see it much last year. We don't know. But I think if it does, if they make the effort, because what we see, Johnny, sometimes in these offenses that throw so heavily and run so little is that pendulum swings back to about the median, and they become a team that the next year is going to run a little bit more and throw a little bit less. They're not going to be as much of an outlier, and I think that's what makes Zack Moss such an interesting must-draft guy for me in that 10th round, and basically a dead zone.
Travis, you know me. You know me. I'm a fond believer in one man's trash is another man's treasure. I totally believe in that theory. And unfortunately for me, Zack Moss is trash from somebody else from last year that I'm not willing to invest in this year, because unfortunately, when it comes to Zack Moss, the problem that I have is that you talked about, hopefully they'll run a little bit more, right? Well, I do believe that they will run a little bit more. The issue is they continue and they made moves this offseason to continue to show that they love to go in that 4 wide receiver set. They play it the second most, or they're in that set the second most of any team behind the Arizona Cardinals. And so when you're looking at that, I just don't know what the true upside is for a guy like Zack Moss when you're splitting basically, a very limited rushing role with 3 guys. I just think that I would rather take a stash at somebody else. Like my next guy in the 10th round. But I do understand that if they do tend to go with a running back in Buffalo to be the more dominant one, it does seem like it probably will probably be Zack Moss.
All right. Well, you teased
Austin
it out.
saying Zack Moss, the boss.
Yeah, that's right.
I would like him more if that was his actual name.
His middle name's Moss and his last name is the boss. That's pretty good, actually.
That would be
let's take it home with your 5th and final must-draft running back, Johnny. That's Gus Edwards. As you mentioned, he is in the 10th round, going around the same area. He did get the contract extension. His team does run the ball. He is, was last year's lead back, if you want to call him that, basically because Lamar Jackson dominated the rushing share. But he is a huge bargain at running back right now, going in the 10th round. And you think that Whisper Nation has to leave their draft with him?
Absolutely. I not only believe it, but so does Big Travy, because you hear him over here gushing about my guy. He's like Mrs. Steel Girl over there. He's trying to take Gus Edwards from me. Gus must. Let's go. Let's get on that train. We need to get like a air horn noise or something drop when we bring up Gus Bus. But he is absolutely my favorite running back to grab in the draft. People are so underestimating how good this guy. Like, he is really, really good as a running back. Why? Because he just goes north and south. We already know that Baltimore runs the ball the most in the league. That's not going to change. They have a 3-headed running back system there with Lamar Jackson, Gus Edwards, and J.K. Dobbins. The thing is J.K. Dobbins is going all the way in the 3rd round because people are projecting that upside when people are just forgetting about Mr. Steady Eddie over here and Gus Bus. That was like a really good pun, dude. Like Steady Eddie, and his name is Gus Edwards. That was great. Sorry, I had to just pat on the back for myself. But Travis, I understand he doesn't scream starting running back, but the reality was he got the most rushes last year of anyone on the team. He had 24% of this team's market share. He had 6 rushing touchdowns, which
he had the most rushing behind Lamar. Lamar had number 1, right?
Right. Yeah. Thank you. I appreciate it. I'm saying of the actual running back, the people that has an RB next to their name on the depth chart. Gus Edwards had the most carries. He had 6 rushing touchdowns, which some people could say, hey, that's a little bit fluky. Well, he just so happened to get 8 goal line carries, which was 14th in the league. They trust him in the goal line area because he's so good at getting north and south. He averages over 5 yards per carry, Travis. I understand people are a little bit scared, but we have known in fantasy football that you attack these ambiguous backfields that do run the ball a lot. That's the other thing. You have to know that offense is going to run. We do know Baltimore is going to do that. Their offensive line is going to be better. They should move the ball a little bit more with the added offensive weapons. I still don't think they trust Lamar quite as much to throw in that red zone, which is why I think they continue to run there. And I just think Gus Edwards has so much upside, not to mention, Travis, if anything does happen to Gus or to Dobbins, and then it becomes basically the Lamar and Gus show, oh, it's over. You're taking that Gus Bus all the way to the championship, and you're going to be like, oh my gosh, the Fantasy Whisperers told me on June 18th to grab Gus Edwards, and it paid off. Unbelievable.
Yeah, I mean, that you make a compelling case. It's all there. The only thing I will say is that I think that there is a scenario where J.K. Dobbins is so good that Baltimore does not have a choice. I mean, J.K. Dobbins' advanced metrics last year on elusivity. I talked about that yards created per attempt list. We talked about Nick Chubb was number 2. Derrick Henry was number 3. Or I'm sorry, Nick Chubb was number 1. Derrick Henry was number 2. Zack Moss was number 7. J.K. Dobbins was number 3. Created 2.18 yards per attempt. So there is a world here where J.K. Dobbins just is a smoke show, for lack of better words, at the running back position for this team that they have to turn to him. But I don't endorse paying for that price. And to Johnny's point, the way you get a breakout running back is to look at an ambiguous backfield in these later rounds and to pick the guy that you're going to get the value on because the ROI is going to be so good. And the ROI right now on a guy like Gus Edwards, or even if Zack Moss were able to come through, I think it's just such a huge investment. So if you can leave your draft with a couple of goes, or hell, if you're at the turn, get them both. And then you've got 2 lottery tickets that you're able to take, kind of invest on, that could end up winning you your leagues, and you end up hitting the jackpot, so to speak.
And what's nice about the guys that we gave you today is the fact, like, if you decide, hey, I don't want to go that typical route of, RB heavy in the beginning of my draft, these are great guys that are going a little bit later that should all way outperform their ADP at the least, just outperform their ADP. And so if you're grabbing a couple of these guys to shore up your roster, I think that you're going to be well on your way to winning that championship here in 2021, Travis and Whisper Nation.
Heck yeah. Whisper Nation, let us know who your favorite running back is. You must leave your draft with this year in the comments.
Oh, unbelievable, Jay.
Coming after you say passing on Chubb, Hunt in later rounds is a better value, in my opinion. Has beaten Chubb multiple years in PPR format.
I do think that Hunt is a good value as well. I was going to actually bring that up, that I think people should be more looking at, hey, grabbing both of these guys and sticking them both in your lineup. I'll have more stats on exactly how good they both were, but I vastly remember, Travis, that they were mostly a RB1 and RB2 when they played together still. So
yeah, you were starting both if you had them both. That was definitely the situation. All right, Whisper Nation, thank you so much. Get on over to thefantasywhispers.com. Get yourself a draft kit for $5 off for the rest of this month. For Johnny Game Time Hicks, I'm Big Travy. We're the Fantasy Whispers. We'll see you next week. We're out. Peace.
Peace. Have a great weekend, Whisper Nation.
Right here.
Oh, you watched the whole video? That's impressive. But if you want to learn how to dominate your draft or win your league, why don't you head on over to thefantasywhispers.com and grab your draft kit today? Or you could click the link in the description below. And if you're still not sold, check out one of these videos.